Dirtle Magic! Hello and welcome back. You can follow our post on Twitter and Facebook at DirtleMTG to stay up to date on our latest videos and other posts, and you can join a more robust discussion about Casual Commander at our blog, thedicebag.blog. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this content to help the channel and the blog grow. Another way you can support the channel, though, is through our affiliate links in the description below. If you're looking for single sealed product or gaming accessories to protect all of that glory, please consider clicking the links in the description. Now, grab some spells, it's time to dirtle. Hello and welcome back. This game will feature Phenax, the god of deception. Working to unravel our machinations are Grumgully, Carth, and Sidisi the brood tyrant. I win the die roll and play a Watery Grave tapped. Grumgully plays a mountain. They then cast a Weaselback Redcap. Carth drops a forest into play. Sidisi plays a Jungle Hollow, gaining themselves 1 life. I draw an island, and I play it. I cast a Mana Compass for some land search ability, and pass. Grumgully plays another mountain, and casts Grotog Bugcatcher. In combat, they swing the Weaselback into me, and I go down to 39. Carth has a Swamp come into play, and then they cast Nature's Lore to retrieve a Woodland Chasm from their deck. The Brood Tyrant plays a Swamp on their turn. Satyr Wayfinder hits the field, and they look at the top 4 cards. They mill away 3 of them. I get Bojuka Bog on my turn, and play a Swamp. I activate the Compass, and grab an island from my deck, and pass the turn. Back to the Generous One, and a Stonework Pack Beast comes into play. The Weaselback and the Bugcatcher swing into me again, and I go down to 35. Carth plays a Command Tower. They then cast a Commander, but when it comes into play, checking his hand number and the revealed zone, unfortunately they seem to whiff off the trigger. Over to Sidisi, and they drop an island. Nissa, Fastward Seer enters, and they grab a forest from their deck. Back to me, and I gain a Sad Robot. I drop an island, and then cast the Ravenous Chupacabra. When it enters the battlefield, I destroy Carth and pass the turn. Grumgully's turn, and a mountain drops into play. On the attack, and all of their creatures swing at me, I intercept the Bugcatcher to get rid of the Trampler, and I take 4, going down to 31. Grumgully is very generous with the damage. Spikeshot Goblin puffs out their chest during the second main phase, and the Grumgully player passes the turn. Back over to the line, and they put a Strip Mine into play. That's dangerous. Vraska the Unseen is seen on the battlefield. They activate her +1, and anything that hits her will die if they do. One does not simply raise a hand against the Queen. Sidisi's turn grows up a forest. Sidisi the Brood Tyrant then slithers on in and mills that player for 3 cards. Because they milled a creature away, they get a 2/2 black zombie token. My turn delivers the saga King Narfi's Betrayal. I drop a Swamp, and then cast the Sad Robot. When it enters, I grab another island from my deck, and pass. Dwarven Mine is prospected on Grumgully's turn. A Dwarf token comes into play, and they pass. Back to Carth, who drops a forest. Ophiomancer enters the battlefield, and Vraska has her +1 activated again. Moving to Sidisi's turn, Ophiomancer triggers for the first time, giving the Carth player a 1/1 black Death Touch Snake token. Sewer Nemesis then comes into play, and the chosen player is Sidisi themselves. Moving to their combat, Sidisi swings into me, milling them 3 cards, and I block with the Sad Robot. The Sad Robot dies, and I get to draw a card, which is Minamo, School at Water's Edge. Lightning Greaves are my card for the turn. I drop a Bojuka Bog, and exile Sidisi's Graveyard, which has the extra benefit of eliminating the Sewer Nemesis. I cast Consuming Aberration, and it's currently a 3/3. I pass, and Thematic Compass flips over into the Spires of Vraska. Grumgully drops a Snow Mountain on their turn. Still no green source in sight, unfortunately. Utrava Scalper comes down into play, and Spikeshot Goblin is activated to deal 1 damage to Vraska. Carth begins their turn with a forest. They cast their commander, and reveal Ugin the Ineffable. Vraska has her +1 activated again, and she sits at 8 loyalty. Over to Sidisi, and they cast Dawn Treader Elk. They then sacrifice the Elk and grab a Swamp. My turn delivers a Command Beacon. I play Minamo, and then cast King Narfi's Betrayal. This triggers the Consuming Aberration, and my opponents mill cards until they hit a land card. Sidisi gains a zombie token, and my saga comes into play. I get to exile creatures or planeswalkers from graveyards, and choose Mad Ratter, Garruk Primal Hunter, and Sir Conrad. Unfortunately, I read the card wrong and didn't realize I could also target my own graveyard. I then cast Lightning Greaves, and Consuming Aberration triggers again. I equip the Aberration with the Greaves, and pass. My creature is a 29/29. Grumgully has Notvold Slumbermound come into play. They cast their commander, filtering mana to get green out of the Pack Beast. In combat, Yatrava Scalper swings into me, and I take the 1. Back to the Carth player, and Twilight Mire creeps in. Vraska is activated again with her +1, and she goes to 10 loyalty. Vraska Relic Seeker is then cast, and once in play, her +2 is activated to make a menacing pirate token. Sidisi's turn has Wonder enter the battlefield. Luckily, I hadn't milled it into the graveyard. To my turn, and I gain a Raven form. My Saga also triggers, allowing me to cast the exiled cards under it. I drop a command beacon, and cast my commander, Phenax, the God of Deception. Aberration triggers, and after the mill, it becomes a 39/39. I then cast her Conrad out from under the Saga, and the Aberration triggers again. Sidisi makes a token, and Conrad joins both the God and the 56/56 Aberration on the battlefield. I move the Greaves over to Phenax, and tap it to mill Sidisi for 7 cards. Conrad is triggered 3 times for 3 damage to my opponents. I then move the Greaves over to Conrad, and mill the Carth player for 4, which triggers Conrad for 1 more damage. I move the Greaves back over to the Aberration, and pass with it being a 67/67, and able to mill any opponent out of the game. Assuming no Eldrazi. At the end of turn, Spikeshot Goblin is activated to deal 1 damage to me, bringing me down to 29. Rolling over to Generous Grumgully, and Ember Wild Augur hits the field. It is followed by Zeratal Goblin, who gets 2 1/1 counters from Grumgully and the Riot trigger. 2 attacks, and the Scalper comes back at me for 1, and I go down to 28. Back to Carth, and they drop a Windswept Heath. They crack it and grab a basic forest. Nature's Claim claims my Lightning Greaves, and it hits the bin, but I gain 4 life. Vraska Relic Seeker has her ultimate go off, and I forgot to calculate for Carth and his static ability. Carth triggers when Vraska hits the bin, and my life total becomes 1. Oof. Well, at this point, I'm taking someone with me. Carth then casts Garruk, Cursed Huntsman, and the Grumgully player responds with burning me for 1 damage with the Spikeshot Goblin. I respond with tapping the Aberration to mill out the Sidisi player, hoping they have the most amount of creatures in the deck. Sidisi goes to 0 cards in the deck, and I get 22 Conrad triggers. Unfortunately, that is not enough to save me by eliminating my opponents, and I go down while Sidisi gains a zombie token and Garruk resolves. Garruk the Cursed Huntsman is immediately ultied, and they trigger Carth and gain an emblem from Garruk that reads +3/+3 and trample to their creatures. Vraska the Unseen is then activated to create 3 assassin tokens, where if they hit you, you lose the game. The Carth player passes the turn. Sidisi has a Graveborn Genesis trigger on their upkeep, and they don't pay for the trigger. Unable to draw from their deck, they lose the game. Back to Grumgully, and they cast Goblin Bombardment, and then a Goblin Lookout. They pause briefly to figure out some math, and then activate the Spike Shot to deal 1 damage to the Carth player. The Carth player responds with the Strip Mine, blowing up Notvold Slumbermound. The Grumgully player moves to combat and swings the Scalper in the air, dealing 1 damage to the Carth player. Moving to the second main, they begin sacrificing all of their creatures to the Goblin Bombardment to bring the Carth player down to 2, lamenting that had they been paying attention, they could have won the game by sacrificing the Ember Wild Augur on the upkeep. Nothing I can say about that mirror pool. Grumgully passes, agreeing to stay in the game so the Carth player can win with the Assassin Tokens trigger, as they discussed. With many players just quitting games I'm in, that's pretty awesome of them. It moves to Carth's turn, and they swing with all the Assassins into the Grumgully player. Grumgully goes down, and the Carth player wins the game. Good game to my opponents. I've had some trouble using this deck, and blue-black is not my strong suit. Somehow it seems to work wonderfully well when my wife is using her paper version, so maybe I don't have the favor of the God of Deception. It was great that the Grumgully player stayed in the game and let Carth attack them with the Assassins, as Carth had exclaimed they had never won with them before. And so the Grumgully player gets the point for the game, and my thanks for being a good sport about it. I'll see you next time for another Casual Commander game here on Dirtle Magic. Until then, stay safe out there.